Forward, we are seeing a total gutting of a resource base. If people want to choose between whether they want guaranteed healthcare or a 5% tax rebate, people are going to want guaranteed healthcare. It's not to say that I object to any and all tax cuts or tax rebates, right? We can help that allegedly cares about building a great American society. So, why is this happening? Why are so many Democrats talking about tax cuts all of a sudden? Well, there's a few reasons, but let's start with everyone
Right now, let's just let me show you where it is, where the actual tax code.
that everyone can get an education. These are problems that would not have been solved unless someone came along to do a little taxing and spending. These are not problems that would have been solved by a tax cut. But setting aside
Exactly.
for a moment, if there's even enough money in the billionaire
So taxes. What are we gonna do, guys? How are we have to tax it. There's no way, right? This is too much money. It's too much money. There's too much thing. This is an inefficiency in the market. It has to be taken with. There has to be some way that we. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Democrats still don't understand affordability.
across America, one unlikely issue is uniting Democratic candidates: the idea that you should not have to pay taxes. Left wing insurgent candidates.
I think we need to be freezing property tax for seniors. If you paid off your home at some point, we can't expect you to keep up with property taxes that are going up. Now, how do we pay for
What? Dude, that is such a bad idea, guys. That is so bad. Like, that is literally, guys, we literally have that in California right now, and it is called Prop 13, and it is absolutely an atrocious idea. The idea that you don't have to pay property taxes as your house appreciates just means that basically it keeps homes frozen with people that, a full house is lived in by two people. Empty nesters don't move out of their house. They should. The empty nesters need to get out of their house. I'm sorry. It just, you need to get out. Like, get an apartment or something that's smaller, downsize or something. Like, the idea that you buy one house and that should be your house forever. I think that it's an old, antiquated way of living. Like, there should be communities of older people that can live together and have fun and share likeness, in activities. This idea that freezing property taxes in California, what happens is that basically that means that billionaire companies have that same loophole. So that means that their property taxes don't go up because all their businesses are all inherited by some nonsense. And it's just such a bad idea. So I hate this idea.
that? Well, again, if we tax billionaires, their wealth.
More moderate candidates.
Here's my big idea. It's very simple, that no American pays taxes on their first $75,000 worth of earnings.
And everyone in between.
And if you're making $80,000 a year, or if you're a married couple making under $161,000 a year, you're going to get a tax cut.
I am someone that
I mean, like, I do think that you should pay some taxes. Just the idea of, like, just we're really talking about federal income tax here. I think that's the big key. The federal income tax. I think that you should pay taxes, but you should get a lot more out of it. And it's harder for us to make the case for a lot of federal job programs or a lot of federal programs in general if you're not paying anything into taxes, even if it's like a small percentage is better than nothing. I think that it just makes it more of a group buy-in kind of thing. People care more about their money being spent wisely, that kind of thing. So I do think that it is okay. Earned income tax credit and stuff. I think that is a good idea if you are like in poverty, but once you start making more, then it makes more sense to me.
cares about liberal politics and the future of the Democratic Party. And I think this is pretty unstable ground for a political movement that allegedly cares about building a great American society. So why is this happening? Why are so many Democrats talking about tax cuts all of a sudden? Well, there's a few reasons, but let's start with everyone
right now, guys, let me show you where it is, where the actual tax code is. Okay. So if you are on the top, on the left-hand side here, okay, these are the current policies that we have. If you make between $0 and $11,000, you're paying 10%, 11 and 45, 12%, 45 to 95, you're paying 22%, 95 to 182, you're paying 24%, right? The problem isn't that these people are paying any tax. The problem is that billionaires paid zero income tax, right? That's the problem, because you can, increase this rate up higher. So if we just increased it to the Eisenhower levels, right? The top 91%, we can see how much it changes. So we can look at this right now. Let's explore this. Okay. So if we have the current law, okay, look at the revenue here. Revenue 5.21, right? If we go to the Eisenhower plan, which doesn't change anything on anything but the top marginal tax rates, now we've gone from what? 5.2 to 6.62. And the deficit is decreased by half. So from $2 trillion down to $1 trillion. That's it. That's it. That simple change, actually having people that make more than $578,000 a year actually pay a percentage so that they can't accrue so much wealth. It reduces the deficit by half. So the idea that you need to go through here and make this zero, this zero, this zero. This is what Mark Kelly was talking about, right? Anything less than 95,000, well, you just increase the deficit by, almost $1 trillion. So you almost increased it by half. It's like, that's a lot. You've increased the deficit by half, guys. That's a lot. What's Trump's plan? Trump's plan is it's the current law. So that's what it is. So it is possible, but you gotta get something out of it.
One's favorite buzzword these days, affordability. Everybody's talking about affordability, the affordability agenda, affordability politics. You've heard it all before, I'm sure. And you can't deny the appeal. Both left-wing and more centrist type Democrats have utilized this message to great effect. Affordability and being anti the Trump administration's corruption are two of the big pillars that unite Democrats these days. But affordability is a vague term, and different candidates have interpreted it to mean different things. A lot of Democrats trying to position themselves as affordability candidates or pro-affordability in some way have tried to make tax cuts a core part of their message. Again, the logic is powerful. Just campaign on putting money back in people's pockets and then boom, you're the affordability guy, right? That simple. Unfortunately, no. And this actually misses the whole reason why affordability messaging is popular in the first place. Affordability.
Dude, we need to massively increase taxes in this country. That's just what it is. I'm sorry. Like it is way better for us in order to generate more revenue by exploring these options. Like look how like an estate tax, increasing the estate tax, something like that, or capital gains rates, or changing. If we go back to the current law, you could go to wealth tax. A wealth tax on $50 million a year. Now we're raising $600 billion a year just on that wealth tax. Taxing borrowed against. So this is kind of like that tax loophole that they have. Financial transaction tax, billionaire minimum tax, stock buyback tax, right? Closed carried interest loopholes. Now, just on those things, we're increasing our revenue by almost $900 billion a year. So our deficit went from 2 to 1.1 just on those alone. So we need more taxes. We desperately need like more taxes. That's the problem. And especially we need a wealth tax. I think that is the biggest no-brainer that we have, is honestly the idea that that these 100 billionaires are just accruing massive amounts of wealth because they're not paying any income tax on that. So we need some minimum tax that they have to pay on that, guys. That we have to. It's just it's wild, it's mind-boggling. And we only think about income tax, but in reality, we need to be thinking about wealth too. The idea that these people are allowed to be so gluttonous and to take so much for themselves without actually contributing anything to society is egregious.
Affordability is about goods, housing, medical care, transportation, these basic essentials that everybody needs being perceived as too expensive. It's about feeling like you're getting nickeled and dimed every time you go to the store. Our effective tax rates are just not historically high or anything right now. Nobody likes taxes, but that's just the truth. Gallup did a poll asking people what they thought their top 4 financial problems were. Far and away, the most commonly cited concern was cost of living or inflation generally, followed by energy and gas prices, the cost of housing, and the cost of healthcare. Only 6% of people mention taxes. If your pitch to be the affordability candidate right now is just a tax cut, you're missing what people are saying whenever they talk about life being unaffordable. What a tax cut is easy. It requires no vision and no original thinking about how to use the immense power that voters entrust government officials with to solve the problems of the voters. Effective affordability rhetoric targets something specific that's making life more expensive. Check out this clip from Governor Abigail Spanberger.
No Virginian should have to choose between filling a prescription and paying for groceries. But that is the reality for far too many families. So let's start with prescription drugs. Right now, pharmacy benefit managers, the middlemen known as PBMs, are driving up the cost of medications while pocketing the savings for themselves. They steer patients away from local pharmacies, harming and hurting rural, independently owned pharmacies. They claw back payments from small businesses, and they make it harder for Virginians to afford the medications they need. This has to stop. Our legislation will require that rebates go back to patients, not corporate middlemen.
Or for a more left-wing perspective, this clip from Mayor Mamdani.
The first plank of our plan is all about building. We have set 2 of the most ambitious housing targets in modern New York City history. First, we are delivering on a promise we made during the campaign. Over the next decade, city government will build 200,000 new, affordable, rent-stabilized homes.
This isn't a leftist versus centrist thing. Both of these politicians are, in their own ways, taking a swing at solving a specific problem, making a specific thing cheaper. Let's take the...
Yeah, I think that you have to do that. Like, especially with housing specifically, a lot of the problem, at least in California, which I know better, it's not the money to build these houses. It's the local city ordinances that they have to get permits for, and it's hard. These local places don't want to build them, so it's clearing all those fees, getting all that done. That's so there's a bunch of top-down pressure, right, that from the governor's office, from Newsom, and but they're just being stopped at the local level, and that's the problem that we're seeing. So, but a lot of these I mean, my problem with a lot of these stuff is like it's so cheap. It really, like, once you start actually taxing people to billionaires and people that are accruing so much exorbitant wealth, like it doesn't, it's so cheap, guys, these programs that they're talking about. I mean, it's almost laughable. You're like, I mean, like, come on, man. So like paid family and medical leave. Paid family and medical leave is $250 billion, 0.25 trillion. The defense budget alone is $1.5 billion now. Like, it's like, come on, dude. Like, it's actually kind of a joke. The affordable housing measures, okay? So this is a 2 million affordable units over a decade, plus expanded rental assistance, okay? That's $75 billion. That's less than what we paid for in the war in Iran already. We could have had a national affordable housing bill that actually made a difference. for 2 million affordable units, 2 million homes. Like these problems are easily solved, but it's just that they refuse to solve them. Like they require spending money, right? And instead of like asking for affordable housing, we should say, yeah, we will pay taxes, right? Call the bluff of the billionaires, right? Yeah, we'll pay a little bit more in taxes. Why don't you pay any taxes? Well, what I'm paying 20%. Why aren't you paying any? Because if the common folk, say we want to pay zero taxes, well, the billionaire is going to say, well, we want zero taxes too, right? It doesn't look good on social media. Right? It just doesn't look good. And I think that you actually get more out of it from the optics point of view when you're getting something, you're paying into it and getting a lot more out of it. And that's how government programs should work, right? That our dollars should be spent in taxes to the point where it's developing something that's uniquely different that can only happen at the federal level. That's what we need for a lot of this stuff. I mean, even what she's talking about up there, it's like, really? Is that really what we want to spend our money on? It's just, I don't know. We need something more universal. We need something that's more of an impact than just like, than that stuff. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Problem of housing unaffordability as an example. Ineffective affordability messaging says housing costs too much. We're going to lower your taxes so you can afford to pay more for housing. Why would this be ineffective? Well, first, it's just not listening to what people are actually asking for. People aren't asking to pay more for housing, to have more money to spend on paying for housing. They're asking to pay less for housing. They're asking to see the number that they pay for housing go down. And this does not address that at all. The second reason I don't like that.
So okay, so Medicare drug negotiations, that's something that she was talking about. That's $100 billion. That costs us $100 billion. Okay. That's $100 billion, right? Expands Medicare drug price negotiations to all drugs. The VA already negotiates and pays 40 to 50% less. Universal health care wouldn't cost us. We would have to pay for universal health care. So universal health care, single payer health care, replacing private insurance, gross cost is offset by eliminating premiums and administrative overhead. The figure here is the net. So fully phased in healthcare is around $450 billion a year. So, but that's not that much. Again, like the fact that that's a lot of money. Okay, so just $450 billion or $500 billion is actually less than what the defense budget is increasing by in Trump's budget in the next year. Think about that. We're going from an $800 billion defense budget to $1.5 trillion or $1,500 billion. So we're going from 800 billion to 1,500 billion. And instead, we could spend that 700 billion on universal health care for the entire country. You read that, you heard that right, ladies and gentlemen. Like these are choices, right? It's going to cost us money, right? In order to have healthcare, universal healthcare. You should accept that. Be like, yeah, we're willing to pay for it too. Yes, because you're actually paying less. So for each person, change nothing else, keeping everything the same. We just have a universal healthcare. Guess what? That means that per person, you save the bottom 50%. That's $1,200 a person a year that they're saving. Middle class, $1,300 per person per year. So we would save money as the individual would save money, even with the increased costs here. It's all a choice, guys. It's all a choice. You know, like it would increase the deficit by the right. It's increasing the deficit to 2.46, but this is easily done. All you do is put a let's say you tax wealth, boom, done. Oh my gosh, easy. So we just taxed people that are $50 million more in wealth, and we just paid for it. Boom. Next problem. Like these are all decisions that we make. We choose not to have universal health care. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad.
Kind of message is that it just wouldn't work. The reason that housing is so expensive right now is that there's not enough housing. We can see this in cities that build a lot of housing.
Oh.
Their prices are lower than
Dude, stop the stupidity. 5 gifted. Thank you so much. 5 gifted in YouTube. Thank you so much. Stop the stupidity. You're a legend. Thank you so much, man.
cities that don't build a lot of housing and have really high demand. There's more people competing for fewer houses. Unless there's an increase in supply that accompanies that tax cut, the cost of housing is just going to get bid up because now everyone has a little bit more money to spend. In other words, the rising cost of housing will just eat your tax cut and nobody will be better off. And people will be more mad than they were before because now they're spending more money. People are looking for prices to fall. If your proposal does not even in theory make prices fall, people will not feel like you are the affordability candidate. Effective affordability messaging on housing has to tackle the housing supply piece. A more centrist coded version of this might be something like cutting red tape and making it easier to build. A more left-wing coded version of this might be massive investments in new public housing. Again,
yeah, I mean, but I think you have to have both, right? You have to have more housing. We don't have plenty of housing, Ruben. We need more houses. We need houses based off of how many houses that the reason why housing it keeps going up is specifically this. Like and honestly, it's a really toxic idea. I don't know when this happened, but like the idea that housing should be an investment is so wild to me. Like in the 1900s, that was not how it was. Like like basically housing stayed the same for like in the fact that you had massive massive deployments of new houses all throughout the country that were being paid for by massive amounts of loans that were from like the World War II VA loans and all these type of things, right? And the expansion and creation of things like the mortgage, right? The mortgage is a political tool that was invented in order to get more people into homes. I mean, mortgages didn't exist all the time, guys, right? We created that through legislation, and that's what made these banks actually have to start giving them to people, right? And that's just the reality. We need another style mortgage, I think. And it probably should be in the guise of like converting renting credits into a house down payment. Like I think that you should be able to accrue good rental credits to the point where you can use that as kind of like as a house down payment on a home. You know, a rent to own or something like that. Yeah, like some way of like in good faith, this is what I've been doing. This is what I've been putting in, and it give me like something to show that I'm going to be a good homeowner after that. Like I think that makes a lot of sense in order to do that. I think that we need legislation in order to do that, right? Because the mortgage didn't come without legislation, right? And this isn't going to come without legislation as well. So that's what it is. Well, a 50-year mortgage? Yeah, I mean, but also the problem with the 50-year mortgage is that with the high percentage costs, now you're just paying like 2 or 3 times the cost of the home. Right? That's also the problem. Like the big problem is the idea that a home should be an investment vehicle. Because again, like the United States, for the longest time, home property values weren't skyrocketing like a stock. You know, they were constantly building homes, and they said, fuck your property values. We're going to buy more homes because we need more Americans in homes. That was the number one way that, that's what we did. Right. But now, unfortunately, we've created this system where now people see property and homes as an investment, it's extremely caustic to this whole, it's very toxic to this whole thing. I think it's a huge problem.
I don't really care which side of this you're on. This isn't a leftist versus centrist thing, but you have to address the thing that's actually being complained about, the high price of housing. Compensating people for high prices with a tax cut is not addressing the thing that people are actually complaining about. Another problem with making your affordability pitch all about tax cuts is that it's something you are always going to get outflanked by Republicans on.
Yeah.
100% of the time,
Yes,
Republicans will be willing to go farther cutting taxes, and voters will just believe Republicans more when they say they want to cut taxes because, like it or not, this has been part of the Republican brand for a long time. There is one exception here, though. If a Democrat is trying to pitch themselves as the affordability candidate, there is one tax that I would absolutely recommend talking about cutting: tariffs. Democrats cannot be outflanked by Republicans on cutting tariffs because Trump and the Republicans have made tariffs part of their brand.
I always say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary. Then I was reprimanded by the fake news. They said, what about love, religion, and God? I said, I agree. Let's put God number one. Let's put religion number two. Love, I don't know. We got to put that number three, I guess, right? And then it's tariff.
Tariffs are also
Okay. Cringe. Okay. I mean, so here, I'm surprised that he didn't mention this. So I think like a great tax to put on here, genuinely, guys, is the federal land value tax. Okay, a 1% tax on unimproved land value, so not buildings. Okay, so if someone has a plot of land that they are not building on, you tax it. That's $100 billion right there. Right? That's the idea. If they've bought it and they're sitting on it and they're squatting on it and it's just an empty lot and they've invested into it and they're not doing anything with it, tax that thing, dude. Tax it. Right? It's not a property. It's not increasing your property taxes. There's no buildings. If there's a building on it, we're not taxing the buildings. Right? But it's the unimproved land value. I think that's a great idea. It's a great idea.
a kind of tax that directly impacts the price of goods. A tariff on imported food makes food more expensive. It's that simple. This is the exact kind of thing that's driving affordability concerns. Tariffs are also just bad for the economy generally. They're not good all around. If you're a Democrat and you're looking to make a tax cut part of your affordability pitch, I would highly recommend hammering on tariffs. So that's one reason why so many Democrats
tariffs are such a bad idea too, because they don't generate that much. Basically, like they just don't. Like it doesn't make any sense to really like push on tariffs because you don't get much out of it. So like this is our current law, like what we have right now. If you go through tariff, like all you're doing, like in order to get, let's say, to get that $100 billion, the same thing that in order to get that $100 billion or 0.1 trillion from the same as the federal land value tax of 1%, you have to increase the cost of all of our goods and services by 6%. Right? That doesn't make any sense, dude. That doesn't make any sense. A wealth tax, right? A 5% wealth tax on anything more than $50 million gets you, in order to get that much amount of money, guys, you would have to put in You would have to tariff our goods at 30%. Who's going to do that? Right? It puts into proportion how much wealth is out there above 50 million. If like, think about that. Imagine a tariff that Trump does on every single goods and service of 30%. All your things that you import are now 30% more expensive. Or you generate that income by taxing wealth over 50 million, 5%. 5%. All the goods and services that you import by 30% versus wealth over 50 million, only 5%, guys. That it really goes to show how much wealth has been hoarded by these billionaires when you look at numbers like that. It's wild to me, man.
Doing the tax cut thing right now because they're missing the point of what makes affordability messaging so powerful. But another important reason that Democrats are leaning into tax cuts right now is that I think this is the only way a lot of Democrats feel like they can appeal to Republicans or Republican-leaning independents. I have to say, I've been a little surprised at some of the overlap I've seen online between the people who want Democrats to appeal to Republicans in order to win elections and people furiously calling out the tax cut wing of the Democratic Party as sloppulous demagogues. I'm sorry, but where did you get the idea that appealing to more conservative voters was going to result in good technocratic policy? I'm obviously giving people a little bit of a hard time here. I understand that what a lot of these folks wanted was for Democrats to be marginally less woke and to make it easier to build housing. Maybe my perspective on this is informed by living in a red state, but demagoguery against taxes is like core to what motivates a lot of Republican voters. I swear, for as long as I can remember, every time Texas has voted on new constitutional amendments, there's been like 3 different property tax carve-outs that Republicans have put up to a vote. Lots of Republicans in Texas want to straight up abolish property taxes altogether and replace them either with nothing in particular or a sales tax that would disproportionately hurt the poor. They love.
This is the problem with having no income tax in Texas. And this is the thing. Like, people always say how, like, oh man, how great it is to live in a state like Texas or something, but all their property taxes are insanely high. And people always try to say about California, how bad it is to live in California. But guess what? The property taxes is actually pretty cheap compared to a lot of states. It just is. Like, the effective tax rate of California is lower than the effective tax rate of Texas. It is. It just is, because exactly what he's talking about, trying to nickel and dime people. They have to have these rates so high that now you have all these special interest carve out groups. It's very nefarious. It's really, really unfortunate.
Some tax demagoguery. It's frankly insane, but it's what you should expect more of if your plan for winning over moderates or Republicans has nothing to do with narrative and is just about rank political triangulations. Politicians won't just get slightly less woke and more pro-YIMBYism. They will also demagogue against taxes. Just to be clear, I oppose this. I think it's a bad development. That's why I mentioned earlier how difficult it was to outflank Republicans on taxes. But let's think for a second about why politicians who want to take a triangulation, moderation approach might settle on a tax cut as a way to appear more moderate. If you're a politician that's worried about appearing too progressive, you have a lot of conflicting incentives. First, you obviously feel like you need to do something to make voters think of you as more moderate, so you've got to find something that has some plausible appeal to Republican or at least Republican-leaning independent voters. Second, you presumably believe in things. That's hopefully part of the reason why you decided to get into politics in the first place, even if you thought it would be electorally optimal to sell out some oppressed group for votes. You probably don't want to do that because it's not what you believe. It's also worth considering that anything you end up making part of your campaign needs to be at least a little coherent with your stated beliefs, with your values, or nobody's going to buy it. People won't believe you if you just start randomly twisting in the wind on your most core values. And third, you have to make it through your primary. Any big landmark policy position that you take has to be at minimum acceptable to the primary voters. Most Democratic primary candidates can't just be out there talking about how they really want to work with Trump and get along with the Republicans and expect to win their primary. So
True.
what does this leave for our Democrat who's trying to appear more moderate? Well, tax cuts present themselves as a pretty elegant solution because you can frame them like this.
The median American, again, 85% less taxes. But we're doing that by unrigging the system and making billionaires and the largest corporations pay their fair share.
The cut tax.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I can't emphasize enough, and you can really tell with the calculator and stuff. It's just the amount that billionaires take from the system is so egregious, man. It really is. I can see why people would want to say like, well, it's not fair. I should have lower taxes just like this billionaire, but I don't know.
Taxes on the middle class and below, raise taxes on the billionaires routine allows you to talk about tax cuts, something that in theory at least appeals to more moderate voters while still sounding acceptable to primary voters. I'm sure there's more issues like this. Please let me know if you can think of any in the comments that can be framed in a way that appeals to Republicans and primary voters. But I think this is part of the appeal of talking about tax cuts. To her,
I mean, what taxes do I think that should be cut? I don't know. I don't. The problem is that historically our taxes are so low, and we are if we care about the debt, and Republicans do care about the debt. I wouldn't talk about taxes necessarily. I would talk about debt and wealth. I think those are the big things. They should absolutely. We should be, if we wanted to appeal to Republican voters for whatever reason, I would talk about the debt. I think that absolutely makes sense. Do you oppose buying real estate as an investment? But the goal of the government shouldn't be for that, like, real estate to be an investment. The goal should be not protecting home values. It should be in protecting Americans to be in homes. Like, the goal should be Americans being in homes, not property values. Like, that's the crazy thing. Like, again, you think that when they were giving all these loans, these veteran like loans after World War II, and all these people were going in and they're building, or they were demolishing all of these places and just putting up suburbia everywhere from coast to coast, they worried about protecting home values? No, home values were low because they were building more homes and they were giving more money in the form of veteran like benefits in order to get people into those homes. So they didn't care about home prices. Like, no, dude, they didn't care. They wanted people to be homed. That's it. 41%. I think I don't think it's 41% right now. I don't think the capital gains rate is 41%, dude. I think it's like 20%. Current USA capital gains rate. Yeah, 0, 15, or 20%. Ordinary income income tax rates up to 37%, but that's not capital gains, dude. No, if you don't hold a stock for more than a year, then it's taxed at your normal income rate. But yeah, not 41%, bro. What are you talking about?
credit, one politician that's not participating in this race to outcompete Republicans on tax cuts is AOC. She said, when you actually look at the totality of what's being put forward, we are seeing a total gutting of a resource base. If people want to choose between whether they want guaranteed healthcare or a 5% tax rebate, people are going to want guaranteed healthcare. It's not to say that I object to any and all tax cuts or tax rebates, right? We can help people who are struggling, but I don't think that the biggest impact in how you help someone and how we help people make ends meet is through that avenue. And fair.
Ruben, I mean, we can literally see, bro. We can see right now. We can explore it, right? I don't even think that like the current law, like imagine capital gains is right here. So we're going from a $2 trillion deficit to like it doesn't change it at all, dude. It's like not even a good tax to increase. Look, like it doesn't even impact. Like, you know what I mean? Like, bro, like it's nothing. So yeah, I don't think that that makes any sense, man. I because it's not a big tax. Not a lot of people generate a lot of wealth through stocks. So revenue peaks at 28 to 30%, push it higher, and investors simply realize fewer gains. It doesn't make any sense. I don't think Biden wanted it to put it to 40 either. I think that you're lied to, man. That wasn't true.
Enough. I think this is exactly right. Progressives will often cite the social democratic states of Europe as a model. In those countries, rich people pay higher taxes, yes, but middle class people also pay a lot more in taxes than middle class people in the United States do. They do not sustain their more expansive social services purely by taxing the rich. Many of you will already know this, but most countries comparable to the US have something called a value added tax, which is kind of like a sales tax. That's the closest thing to it that we have in the United States. For the purposes of this video, it's mostly important to know that the VAT rate is much higher than what Americans usually pay in sales tax. Denmark, Sweden, and Norway all have VAT rates of 25%, much higher.
So we can look at that too. I put that in here. This is kind of interesting. The VAT is really interesting. So we reset it. We have nothing. We have the current model. And if we just increase the VAT, so use 25%, even like a 10%. If we wanted a value added tax on everything, VAT is a value added tax. A 5% value added tax, the consumption tax every other rich country uses. At $1.4 trillion a year, it is the single largest untapped federal revenue source. Regressive unless paired with rebates. And so that means that it's on everything. So it's kind of like a sales tax. It would be like an increased sales tax, but it would get us debt free, right? An added 10% value added tax gets us debt free by 2042. Like that. Do you know what I mean? Like if Republicans were actually serious about the debt, easy, done. Right? That's $2.8 trillion a year that we could have. We have a $1 trillion increase in surplus. How high is that percentage? Well, I mean, it would be 10% increase on all goods and services. So everything. So, and the problem is that it's regressive in the fact that every single person pays it, even like the poor. So progressive, it's progressive. Our tax rate is progressive because see how it's lower for people that have lower income, and then as you increase it, you still, even if you're making over $1 million a year, on your first 11K you're still paying 10%. On your first 145K you're paying 12. On the next 45 you're paying 22. See, it's like it adds. So it's regressive in the value added tax because every single person pays the 10% or whatever it is, 5%. And it's the same across the board. And as a percentage of the wealth that you have and the income that you have, it's disproportionately harms the poor. So that's why it's kind of a bad idea.
Than any state's sales tax. It's not like the necessity of taxes to fund a social safety net is a new insight or anything. I'm not breaking new ground here. This is what Walter Mondale, Democratic candidate against Reagan in 1984, had to say about taxes in his convention speech.
Let's tell the truth. That must be done. It must be done. Mr. Reagan will raise taxes, and so will I. He won't tell you, I just did.
That is not based, but geez, that is very tough. I mean, I genuinely do think that we should be increasing taxes, guys. I really do. Like, but disproportionately higher on wealthy people. You know, like that is what it is, you know, like that's what I think, you know. So value added tax, if we added a 10% tax, the highest that you could possibly get per year, that means the bottom 50% of people over here. Sorry, if we added the value added tax, that means that the lower 50%, this shows why it's regressive. Basically, the bottom 50% pay $6,000 a year. So it is a lot. The middle class would pay an extra $7,000 a year. So that's it. So where can we get the money for universal health care? Really easily, dude. Like I was saying, you do the federal land value added tax, or you just do the wealth tax wealth. That's it. I mean, you literally only have to tax wealth over $50 million at 5%, and that's it. That's it. I mean, it just is. Like, look at this difference. We generate $600 billion a year just on that wealth tax, and universal health care only costs $450 billion. So look, we still have less debt. We've actually decreased the debt by 10%, the deficit by 10%. We've gone from $2 trillion to 1.8. Like it's really simple. Like we should be increasing taxes on rich people. We should be.
Now, Mondale lost that election badly, but the truth is Reagan did need to raise taxes, and he did so multiple times. He cut taxes dramatically in 1981, but this ballooned the deficit. The government was spending more money than it was taking in. And in the absence of any significant cuts to total federal spending from Reagan, in fact, Reagan actually increased spending. The only solution was to raise taxes because you can only spend at that big of a deficit for so long. It's unsustainable. This is the unavoidable math of
Until
the
now.
federal budget that even people who have an ideological commitment to cutting taxes, like Ronald Reagan, have to face. In the past, I've talked about getting rid of the filibuster. Sometimes people ask me how I expect Democrats to campaign on eliminating the filibuster. Do people really care about some archaic procedural rule? My response is usually something like, don't campaign on eliminating the filibuster, campaign on what you're going to do after you eliminate the filibuster. Instead of trying to make the very concept of taxes into an applause line like Mondale there, Democrats should talk about what we want to use taxes to do. This shouldn't be an afterthought. If we're asking people to give the government money, we should be making sure that they're getting way more than their money's worth out of the government. If they're not, people will hate us.
I mean, look at just on that point, guys. Look at that. So this is the reality. Current law, right? We only changed taxing wealth on Wall Street, right? We've generated $625 billion a year. We've spent $450 billion a year. So that means that we have $200 billion to play with. Okay, what do you guys want to do with that $200 billion now? We could do permanent child tax credit, $300 a month. Every parent gets $300 a month per kid. Okay, how about that? How about free public college? Done. There we go. So our next generation has free public college and a permanent child tax credit and universal health care. And all we had to do was tax wealth over $50 million, 5%. And we can look at the bottom here. That means that the average person, right? The average person, the bottom 50% of income is actually going to make $1,700 more per year per person. That means that the middle class is going to take home $2,000 per person per year. I mean, we're like, these are so easy, guys. Like, once you start generating more revenue, it's so simple. And there's so many ways to generate revenue that we aren't doing. And the problem is that this video is exactly right. We've only been playing the Republicans' game, which is tax, like cutting taxes. And when you're just decreasing revenue after decreasing revenue, but look at, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I mean, this isn't even exploring things like at the bottom here, defense budget reduction. You could do a 50% cut, right? From $900 billion to $450 billion. That's $450 billion that you could add and play around with. Then you could do things like universal pre-K, universal free school meals, baby bonds. Now we're actually really playing with some awesome stuff here, right? Now we can do paid family and medical leave, all right, and universal childcare. Done. Like, again, so we've done two things. We've decreased the defense budget, and we had an increased tax on $50 million by 5%, and we were able to get universal health care, Medicare for all, paid family and medical leave, universal child care 0 to 5, permanent child tax credit $300 a month per kid, free public college, free universal pre-K, universal free school meals, and baby bonds. So that means per person, the bottom 50%, that's going to be about $3,000 a year per person in benefits. The middle class is going to get around $3,700 a person per year in benefits. Like, again, like it's honestly so simple. It's ridiculous that we don't do these like small things. But if we're only looking at tax cuts, that's what it is. We should be looking at tax increases. We should be looking to increase taxing. And just think about all the ways that your life would improve based off of this 5% wealth tax. And then imagine all these billionaires being like, you can't tax me 5%. That's not fair. That's not fair. You can't tax me 5% so you can pay for universal health care, paid family leave, universal child care, permanent child tax credit, free public college, free pre-K, universal free school meals, baby bonds. No, I need that. I need that 5%. I need it. They would look like fools, bro. They would look like absolute fools. That would not, they would look like it. I dare them. You would dare them to make such a publicly stupid comment. So it's like we have the capabilities, guys.
American liberals ought to believe in the power of the government to coordinate.
How could you integrate universal healthcare without affecting the salaries of medical workers, bro? That the money, it's about who pays for the medical care. It would be from the same place. It would be from, so it's called single payer private provider. The single payer is the government. The payer, the provider is a private person. So it's not the government that's actually providing these things. It's a private business. So you have medical salaries in other parts of the world, bro. It's like the idea that we wouldn't have research and development, or we wouldn't have a medical industry with the universal healthcare is just wrong. Bobby, yes, exactly. The rich whining imitation. It's so gluttonous, man. It's so Joey, bro, what's up, man? We are exploring affordability. I made this little calculator that basically allows us to explore different tax rates. So like we were talking about how if just a 5% tax, 5% wealth tax on 50 million and above, okay, would generate $625 billion a year. And decreasing the defense budget by $450 billion would generate to give us enough cash to pay for paid family and medical leave, universal child care, permanent child tax credit, $300 a month per kid, free public college, free pre-K, universal free school meals, and baby bonds. Yeah, I did. Yeah, you can simecon.app. It's like it's a calculator, like trying to explore different ideas, and it's actually cool. You can load different plans here. So the Nordic model, Eisenhower tax plans, the DSA program. The DSA program is pretty interesting. I'm gonna probably make a separate video just on that. Bernie progressive, balancing the budget. Yeah, it is pretty cool. Thank you, man. So yeah, the DSA program is one of those ones where people are like, "Oh my gosh, there's no way." But like honestly, it actually isn't that bad, guys. It's actually the DSA plan actually taxes less than Eisenhower-era 1950s taxes. It's just it's a choice, guys. It's a choice. Eisenhower, look at the corporate income tax rate. 52%. 52% in Eisenhower's plan. And the DSA's corporate tax rate's only 35%. Wild, man. It's absolutely wild. Does it keep them at 51% or above? Where? Which plan? Which plan? Yeah. Oh, thanks, Jess. Thanks. Yeah, welcome in. Let's finish the video.
Coordinate people and resources to solve problems that can't or won't be solved by any one person or one company working alone. Rural electrification, ensuring that the elderly don't live in poverty, ensuring that everyone can get an education. These are problems that would not have been solved unless someone came along to do a little taxing and spending. These are not problems that would have been solved by a tax cut. But setting aside for a moment, if there's even enough money in the billionaire class to fund all the progressive priorities, setting aside the question of how broad the tax base has to be to fund a progressive agenda, I think if you're someone that cares about equality, it's pretty questionable at a foundational level to fund your social programs in a way that structurally depends on the continued existence of massive amounts of wealth inequality. To have a system where only the top 0.1% pays, that top 0.1% has to permanently be so disproportionately wealthy compared to the rest of society. Is that really the end state that anybody wants? If this is all sounding a little red for your taste, here's noted communist Mitt Romney talking about some of the problems with extreme wealth inequality.
That's a challenge. I'm concerned about the amount of money a few people are getting. I mean, the idea that Elon Musk is going to be a trillionaire.
I mean, guys, there's a difference between income and wealth, guys. Like, right? Income is how much you're making every month. Wealth is how much all your total assets are together. Okay? And it's exorbitant. It's very, very important to distinguish them both. Okay? Like the amount of money that they have hoarded for the trillionaire and his billionaire friends. This actually, again, for Sim Econ, I actually developed this too. This is an interesting, I've never done this on stream, so it'll be fun to go through what I wanted to explore this idea. I wanted to explore how much money they've actually managed to hoard as billionaires and trillionaires in order to understand this. So it's called The Gap, a game about numbers you can't feel. How much do the richest actually have? Guess, then see a 5-minute journey through the wealth inequality. So wealth inequality, so often we talk about income inequality, right? But wealth, how much are these hundreds of billions of dollars actually mean and what it is? What does it mean for us? If my mouse works, that'd be sweet. That'd be cool. Okay. The Gap. Here we go. You know the words million, billion, trillion. This game exists because the words are hiding the numbers. In a 2011 study, Americans guessed the richest 20% held 59% of the country's wealth. The real number was 84. Almost Everyone is wrong about this in the same direction. First, how much do you make a year? Every number in this game will be translated into your life, stays on your device. So, what do you guys think? So, I think that we could do the minimum wage, US median, or 100K or 250K. I think we should probably do for this like 100K. 100K like is seen as like a good salary, you know what I mean? Like something that you can actually like live on, you could, bring together, start doing stuff with, right? I think let's it's way more than the US median, right? So this is a good does matter where you live. Yeah, in San Diego, 100K is a is not rough, but like it's on the bottom line. But I think let's do 100K anyway, because the point is that as actually it's not like 64,000. Rural Tennessee. Okay, well if let's just do U.S. median then. I think U.S. median then. So we'll do U.S. median $64,000 a year. Okay. The scale. Before anyone argues what's fair, you have to see how big the numbers actually are. Nobody can. That's not an insult. Human brains can't do this, right? We can't think about what is the difference between a billion and a trillion? About $1 trillion. So the difference between a billion and a trillion is about $1 trillion. But they sound so similar, right? So here we go. Count to 1 million, then to 1 billion. One number per second, one day and night. So if you're just counting that 1 million is a million seconds, that's 12 days, right? You'd be counting for 12 days to get to 1 million seconds. 1 billion seconds would take you 32 years to count to 1 billion. So if you were making $1 a second, okay, it would take you 32 years to become a billionaire. If you were making $1 a second, it would take you 31,000 years to get to $1 trillion. That is wild. 1 million and 1 billion are not neighbors. A billion is 1,000 millions. 1 trillion is 1,000 billions. That's why I say when we talk about these numbers, $1.5 trillion, that's why I say 1,500 billion or 1,500 billion to say 1.5 trillion, because it really, you have to elucidate this. You have to really show what it is. So I hate how different these numbers are and how similar they are in our brains. So here we go. Earning $64,000 a year and saving every single penny that you make. This is the median income in the United States. How long would it take you to earn Elon Musk's fortune? What do you guys think? If you saved every single penny that you made a year, making the median income in the United States $64,000 a year, how many years do you think it would take in order for you to make Elon Musk's $1 trillion fortune? What do you guys think? How many years? At least 50,000, right? What do you guys, how many billions of years? It go from 10 to 10 million years. What do you guys think? I think it might be around 100,000 years. Remember, guys, you're saving every single penny that you're making. You don't spend a single cent. You're saving everything that you're getting. Your income equals adding to your wealth. You know what I mean? This is what we're showing. The income is a perfect translation into your wealth. It's going to be, let's see, 100. You're right, Jess. Exactly, 16.4 million years. You would need to have started working before humans ever existed. Think about that. In order to make $1 trillion, if you saved every single penny when you made $64,000 a year, you would need to work 16.4 million years in order to accrue $1 trillion. Our brains can't even. Exactly, Heather. Exactly. So let's draw the money, right? Each little square here on this screen is $1 million, more than most Americans earn in a decade of work. So each of these is $1 million now. Okay, let's show us $1 billion, right? That's $1 million a box, which is a life-changing amount of money. That's $1 billion, right? This is $1 billion. Your entire median household net worth, $192,000, is about a fifth of one of those boxes. All right. Now let's see what Elon Musk is at. This is Elon Musk now. Each one of these is $1 million. Look at the cursor on the right-hand side. Look at the cursor. It's $1 million and $1 trillion differ by a factor of 1 million. The words rhyme, the realities don't. Look at this. Look at this cursor scrolling. 1 million boxes. How do you not feel so guilty and shamed about hoarding this wealth? I know, Heather. He's sitting there in this interview with the Economist talking about how he's so happy that Doge was cutting red tape and he was cutting all these things. It's crazy. Every 4-pixel dot in this wall is $1 million. It's just wild, dude. It is just absolutely wild. So what's the net worth of the typical American household? Everything they own minus everything that they have. Oh, sorry. Everything that they own minus everything that they owe. The household exactly in the middle. Half richer, half poorer. So what do you guys think? How much is our typical American household net worth? What do you guys think? What's the typical American, the median net worth of the American family? What do you guys think? I mean, people have 401ks, right? I mean, 401ks is like how people they have retirement accounts. 200K. No clue. I have more assets than this other stuff. Yeah. 200, maybe 300K. Okay, let's split the difference. Let's put 300K. Let's put 300K in there. Okay. 192. Nice, Dan. You got it. So that's the real median. A median is the middle, right? 192. The average is 1 million, which goes to show how disproportionate it is because of all the billionaires, right? That's what happens. It wasn't always like this, right? The share of U.S. households' wealth held by the richest 1% from the Federal Reserve's own accounts. The richest 1% had 22% of the wealth in 1989. We were just talking about that. They had to increase taxes, right? This is after Reagan increased the taxes, guys. And now it's just gone up. That 22.6, look at 23% to 31% in one generation. The bottom 90% traded roughly $16 trillion of relative share upward. Concentration is now in the neighborhood of 1929, the peak of the Gilded Age. So picture all of America's wealth as $100 on a table. How much goes to the entire bottom half of the country? That's 66 million households, or about 165 million people. Nurses, truckers, teachers, your family, you. How much does half of the country own? The bottom half of the country. If it was $100, how much do we split? What do you guys think? $3? Here we go. $2. Yeah, you're exactly right, Heather. Nice. $2.50 at the head of the table, the gold sliver, the top 0.1%, about 132,000 households holds $14 of every $100. The 50 people at the far end, $2.50 between all of them. 10 individuals hold about 69% as much as the entire bottom half of the country. So the top 1% here, $31. The top 10%, $65. It's so much. This is what I'm saying, Heather. This is what I mean. We're not talking about, oh, it's possible. What are you talking about? This is absolutely possible. This is what the numbers are. The fact that people don't even think this is possible. This is it's wild to me that you don't think it's possible. This is what I'm saying, is that if we took all of their wealth, guys, this is what really blows my mind. If we took all of the wealth of these 100 billionaires, their income isn't impacted. That's what's so crazy. If we took all of their money, let's just say we took all of their wealth, they're still making how many millions of dollars a year? $100 million a year? like what? Like they're still going to have the same income, but we just took their wealth away, and they still can live on their salaries, right? What would be the worst thing? Oh my gosh, you took my wealth away. Now I have to live off of my income. Oh, imagine that. Imagine having to live off your income, guys. Poor babies. Oh, poor billionaires. They have to live off of their income. Oh. I don't want to be a poor person. I have to live off of my own income. So this is how that money, this is the thing that really blows your mind, right? Like this is how that money makes more money. And this is the power that accrues with capital, right? So you've seen how big the piles are. Now the important part, your money comes from your time. Their money comes from their money, right? Your money comes from your wage that you spend at work. The billionaire, that's not where their money comes from. Their money comes from their money. Their money has a job, right? Their money is making money. So let's see. Suppose Musk's fortune just sat in a boring index fund. How long does it take his pile to passively earn your entire salary? So let's say you put $1 trillion into an index fund, the safest thing that you could find. How long does it take for him to make his money to make your salary? 10 seconds? Yep, 19 seconds. At ordinary long run market returns, about 10% a year, $1 trillion generates your entire year of work in the amount of time it took you to read this paragraph. Watch it happens. You on the clock. Here it is. 15 seconds. This is me. This is how much I've made on the left-hand side. This is how much he's made. 1.7, $2 million already, guys. What do you mean? This is just his money. This isn't him getting money from Tesla or SpaceX or anything like that. This is just his money making money. This is the index fund fantasy. In the real June 2026, he earned $218 billion in 30 days, about $84,000 every second. Your annual salary every 0.8 seconds around the clock. So why tax their income this is the point. And this is the real point for me. Each hollow box is what someone owns, their wealth, okay? Each of the hollow box. The fill inside is what arrives in a year. Watch what each machine does over 30 years. So us, right? We own $193,000. That's how much we have in the bank. Your yearly income, $64,000, fills 33% of that box. Your box only grows if you feed it your time, right? You working is the only way to fill that. And as a percentage, your income is a pretty big portion of your entire wealth. You're making $64,000 a year median in the United States, but you only have your wealth is only 193,000. Now compared to the billionaire. Billionaire starts at $1 billion. Now it's $1 billion. At $1.5 million salaries fills only 0.15% of the box. So at year one, see how it see how it gets bigger and bigger? Their $1.5 million salary fills the same. So over 10 years, you own $257,000. Your yearly income, 64%, fills 25% of your box, right? It went from 33 to 25. As your wealth grows, your income stays proportionate, right? You're not your wealth is growing at 10% a year, but your income isn't, right? You don't get a 10% raise every year, right? And that's what we're showing here. It started at $1 billion for the billionaire, but now it's at $2.7 billion. So their $1.5 million salary now fills a smaller portion of that box. The outline grew $253 million this year on its own. The money made money. For you, income and wealth are the same thing. You are your paycheck. For them, for the billionaires, income is a rounding error on the outline. Exactly. An income tax taxes the fill, the outline never notices. Remember that box for Act 3. So the point is, like, look at, this is what the point, and this is what's so frustrating when we talk about income tax only. Like, they are making so much money from their wealth, that the income tax doesn't really do anything. You could tax them at 90%. They don't care, because their money is already making money. This is why it's so egregious, by the way, that they get so mad at about an income tax increase for them when they don't even pay income tax, guys. So it's ridiculous. So there we go. This is the fun part, guys. This is it. We did it, right? We got it. We got the $1 trillion. We are Musk now. We can buy anything, buy everything. The pile keeps earning ordinary market returns while you shop. Okay? Guys, we got to spend this money. We have $1 trillion to spend. Okay, so I'm going to get a Giga yacht. I want an NFL team. I want a private island. I want a Bugatti. Premier club team for sure. Da Vinci paintings, Boeings. Okay, Manhattan skyscrapers. Ooh, that'd be fun. Your own rocket launch. I think that would be cool. $100 million. A $10 million party every night for a year. A 10 million. Wow, I can spend $10 million on a there he goes. Okay. So I've spent $17.3 billion, but hey, what's going on here? I've made a ton of money back. So notice the pile refilling. At ordinary returns, it regenerates $300 million a day. You can't buy yachts fast enough to beat the amount of money that you make from your money. Past a certain point, wealth is no longer money to spend. It's a machine that cannot be emptied. While 66 million households split 2.5% of the country's wealth, these guys have so much money that they literally cannot spend it on the most egregious things, mega yachts, NFL teams. They're making $300 million a day. Like, you could spend all this stuff. It doesn't matter. Could you ever catch up? Pick any salary, save any fraction, invest it all the same 10.4% that they get. Here's the gap between you and Musk's $1 trillion after 40 years. So our salary, let's say let's make it $1 million. Okay, savings rates, let's make it 100%. We make $1 million a year and we're making 100% savings rates, guys. Okay, the gap didn't close. It just grew, actually. Compounding rewards the size of the pile, not the effort of the saver. And even against the smallest top 10 pile, $147 billion, it will never close. The gap is structural. It cannot be worked away. After making $1 million a year, saving 100% of the savings rate, after 40 years, saving every single penny, we only have $494 million. But Elon Musk's, after 40 years of a 10% ETF fund in just market-based returns, $55 trillion. Here's the secret the wealthy already know. Money past a certain point is an income. It is. So about $3 million in ordinary dividend funds pays roughly $120,000 a year forever. Without working, without ever touching a principal. It's heritable, it's permanent. So how many people could live like that off of Elon Musk's pile alone? So think about that. Once you have more than $3 million, you can just go invest it into dividend funds, and the stock literally pays you to have it, and you can get $120,000 a year forever. Okay? You can just get money paid to you by owning the stock. That's what a dividend is. Okay? You take that $3 million, put it in dividend funds, and you just get $120,000 a year. How many people could live this lifestyle of just completely hands-off, not a worry in the world anymore? They don't have to worry about working. They could live like kings. How many people could live like this off of his wealth alone? What do you guys think? How many people? How many people's exorbitantly perfect life is Elon Musk hoarding from everyone else? What do you guys think? I would say, let's say 50,000 people. 350,000 people. They get the dream life. 350,000 people could live the dream life off of Elon Musk's thing. And in other words, we could afford, on Elon Musk's wealth alone, we could afford a $1,000 a month UBI for 3.5 million people. Just on the wealth that he has. Think about that. That's a UBI $1,000 a month for 3.5 million people. Or you could just live off of 350,000 people could just live like a king, the dream life, not working again and ever in their life. but he's hoarding it. Every dot is one person receiving $120,000 a year, permanent, inheritable, principal untouched, roughly everyone in Honolulu. The entire city of Chicago could get a $1,000 a month UBI just off of Elon Musk's wealth alone. Just on his wealth, he could still make money, guys. This is not his income. This is just his wealth that he has. This is his stockpile, right? This is his stockpile of gains. He still can make money, but this is just the wealth that he's accumulated and he's hoarded for himself, the gluttony that he has. We can't afford UBI, they all say. One man's dividends could write a permanent $1,000 a month check to 3.5 million Americans, a fully funded basic income program, forever, principal untouched. Let's define enough. One golden box is $100 million. You never work again. Private jets, a mansion on each coast. Your grandchildren's grandchildren never work either. Dynastic, permanent, more than enough wealth. That's the box. Nobody gets this golden box, guys. How many golden boxes does he have? Oh, it's $100 million. This is 10,000 golden boxes that he has himself. Dynastic, permanent wealth. Grandchildren's grandchildren. Look at all this that he has. Elon Musk holds 10,000 boxes. 10,000 lifetimes of exorbitant, more than enough wealth. Concentrated in one person and growing faster than he can give it away, spend it, or count it. This is gluttony. This is gluttony through and through. So taxes. What are we going to do, guys? We have to tax it. There's no way, right? This is too much money. It's too much money. There's too much thing. This is an inefficiency in the market. It has to be taken with. There has to be some way that we deal with this. But they pay most of the taxes, they say. Oh, they pay so many guys. They pay so much in taxes. Don't you understand? They pay so many taxes. Let's check. Not rates on paper, what actually leaves each pile, okay? Measured against each pile they actually gained. So a nurse on the median wage and Elon Musk on what each actually gained, what rate did each actually pay, right? So what did the nurse pay? What did Elon pay? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? How much does a nurse get taxed? I think it's like 30%, 31%. 40%? 40%? What does Elon pay? What do you guys think that Elon pays? Right? It's at least, 15% is the capital gains rate, right? 15. Jess, you want to do 27%? Let's do 27%. I think that's a little lower than, I don't think they're making 40. 15%? Okay, let's try 27 and 14. Here we go. Oops. The nurse pays 24%. Elon Musk, out of his 100 boxes, 3%, guys. He's paying an effective tax rate of 3%. Watch the boxes. 24 of the nurse's 100 leave, 3 of Musk's leave. His wealth grew by $14 billion. He paid $455 million. 3.2%, about 7 times less than the nurse, right? So this is his wealth, his income versus wealth gap. This is what we're talking about here, right? This is how much he is being taxed versus his wealth. This is the big point. Like, we do not have in the United States, as the median person, we do not actually gain much wealth, versus our tax, our income tax, right? That's the point. Like, we work hard for our money, don't get to keep much of it to create wealth, while Elon Musk's continues to not pay taxes and take way more than they need. So watch the box. Does that make sense? In 2018, the year he became Tesla's largest gainer, he paid $0. Michael Bloomberg, 1.3% of their tax, of their wealth. Jeff Bezos paid 0% federal income tax in 2007 and 2011. Must be nice. Warren Buffett, wealth grew $24 billion and he only paid $23 million. So the top 25 wealthiest combined, their wealth grew $401 billion and they paid $13 billion. So again, so their wealth, this is wealth versus the income that they have. It's wild. It is absolutely wild that this is allowed. The 3-step machine: buy, borrow, die. Buy stocks. Stocks goes from $1 billion to $10 billion. You own these assets. Own the assets and never sell. The $9 billion gain is unrealized, and under U.S. law, it isn't income, so it's not taxed. So it's taxed at exactly $0. The outline grows. The IRS sees nothing. You borrow. You borrow against that $10 billion. Need spending money? Don't sell. The poors sell, but they don't. They don't need to. Don't sell. Borrow against the pile. Loans aren't income either. Mansions, yachts, and Twitter acquisitions all financed tax-free, while the collateral keeps compounding. And heirs at death, this stepped-up basis resets the clock. Heirs inherit at current value, and the entire lifetime of gains simply vanishes for tax purposes. Then their generation starts the machine all over again. Their heir gets to invest and inherit the entire $10 billion. So this is why Act 2 matters, what we were talking about. The income tax was built for people whose money arrives as income, right? The billionaires don't have money that arrives as income. They don't get it by a W-2, guys. They get their money by capital. The nurse's paycheck is captured at the source. That's not what we do. So here we go. Static first order estimates. No behavioral model, just honest multiplication against the real wealth basis. That's the point. Even the crudest math shows the size what's on the table. So here we go. Annual wealth tax on fortunes above $50 million, guys. What do you guys think? 8%? I think that seems fair. Tax on billionaires' yearly wealth gains. So we should say, I think that we should say, if you're billionaires and your wealth accumulates past $5 billion, we should tax you at 40%. Something's happening. That's not good. That's an inefficiency in the market. We should be taking that. Go home. You've won. We don't need you. We don't need you anymore. This revenue, $3.7 trillion a year. Tuition-free public college, free school meals, ending U.S. homelessness, NASA's entire budget. It's just wild, man. It's just wild the amount that you can actually make here. So we played for 34 minutes. We earned at our wage, $17. Okay. Musk earned $7 million in that 34 minutes, dude. And then Musk pile, what he actually earned But the $1 trillion, $100 million in that time. It is absolutely unbelievable. Here we go. We got someone that's trying to combat this in YouTube chat. Here you go. Yeah, but the 4 replies you'll hear pre-answered. Here we go. It's just paper wealth. He can't actually spend it. He bought Twitter for $44 billion, and billionaires live on loans against the paper. Banks accept the paper as collateral at face value. The only entity that treats it as imaginary is the IRS. They earned it though, guys. They earned it. The first $1 billion, maybe. But you watch the machine past the point of the pile, earns more than this. Past that point, past $1 billion, the pile of money earns more per second at idle than a surgeon earns per week of work. Nobody earns $84,000 per second. A pile that size collects. It doesn't labor. They'll just give it away. Give it to them. They can spend their own money. The pile grows at 10% a year. A billionaire giving runs far below that. Elon Musk doesn't have any philanthropy. Musk's fortune grew $218 billion in 1 month. That's total U.S. charitable giving from all sources is $50 billion a year. That math is simple. Fortunes are accumulating faster than they are being given away. Philanthropy loses the race to compounding. It just does. They don't actually use. Taxing them wouldn't even fund anything. This is another one. This is the one that they always say. Taxing them when it's not even a lot of money, guys. It's not even a lot of money. A 2% wealth tax on just the top 0.1% is $500 billion a year. 20 NASA budgets every year from 132,000 households. While their pile still grows. We see it, guys. We see the numbers. We know what it is. So it's egregious, man. It is egregious. The fact that people actually think that this is fake, that these numbers aren't real. Like that's what's actually wild to me. There are people that actually think that these numbers aren't real. We just went through it, guys. The math is the math. I don't understand the fact that people think that this is fake. Just shows how wealthy that they are, that people literally cannot grasp that this can be real. They cannot grasp that this is their reality, and they live in a fake world where Elon Musk is somehow going to be a good thing in their life, guys. That's going to be okay. Elon Musk isn't trying to save you, bro. Elon Musk doesn't care about you. Elon Musk hates you. He thinks that you're a serf, and he wants you to be his indentured servant in his Tesla factory. Pull back, bro? No, I don't pull back. Never. I will never pull out of your mom either. Stay mad, dude. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. The math is the math.
What does that mean? We're talking about 1,000 billions. And that means, he could drop a couple of billion in a political campaign to support someone who would give him even more power.
Dude, even Romney agrees with us. Even Romney is on our side.
And he's not just the only one. I shouldn't just pick on him, but there are others that are going to become hundreds of billions of dollars in wealth, and they will influence our political system. So these are some of the challenges that we face.
I don't know, guys. He makes some good points.
Dude, it's SimEcon. The SimEcon.app. SimEcon.app. And then the And then at the top here is the it's called Sim Econ. And at the top, the gap is what we just played. So the gap is the gap between wealth and income inequality, and trying to bring those things together. Because so much of our conversation is always about income inequality, and we're not talking about wealth inequality. And that is the thing that is completely disordinate to a way that we can't even ascertain, man. Guys, it's just numbers. Like it just is. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like you can stay mad, but be mad that these people are accumulating this much of wealth. That's what's crazy.
If you want something more in depth about why wealth inequality is something important to consider, even for people who consider themselves more classically liberal than me, I'd encourage you to check out the pinned comment. I'm linking a piece that makes an argument for caring about wealth inequality from that kind of perspective from this pretty new publication called liberalism.org. Here's
Crazy. Wow, guys.
another quote from AOC on this topic. This race to see who can be exempt from participating in society is not a conversation that I'm interested in. I'm a great society Democrat, and I believe in building that together. And I think that the discourse around everyone, let's all be like billionaires and opt out of our taxes, I don't find it an inspiring message. Or maybe put another way.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Look, I'm not going to tell any politician how to win a tough election, especially not in a general election, but I am telling people that the general trend of tax cut Democrats is not a good one. It's not something that we can beat Republicans on, not ever. It misses why voters are actually concerned about things like affordability, and it shows an incredible lack of vision. In the long run, it also prevents us from doing the things that we need to do to make this country a better place. All right, thanks so much for
All right, guys. Dang. Well, I'm happy we went through that. I think that is. I'm happy that we talked about that. Thank you for watching.